So I want to welcome you to today's webinar. I do appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And we're really going to, the focus of the webinar is getting started with OrthoGen for Plant 3D. So my name is Jeff Holmes. I'm the lead software engineer for 3DS. So I've been with 3DS from its beginnings in 1996, and I became a full-time part of the team in 2006. So my role has been to develop and extend the capabilities of OrthoGen, which is the industry-leading drawing automation software. Today we're going to focus on using OrthoGen with Plant 3D. So the focus is really on kind of high-level topics rather than in-depth details of drawings. And so really what we're trying to do is remove as many obstacles as possible to your team being able to quickly begin using OrthoGen to generate your drawings. So I'm joined today with Marcus Holmes and Joel Holmes. But Marcus oversees our customer relations teams. Joel is our founder and the original creator of OrthoGen. So Marcus, he oversees our customer relations teams. So he's going to help me. So what he's going to do to help our time be a little more efficient is he's available on chat. So as you have questions, rather than stopping the presentation, I'm going to ask that you just simply send a group message through the chat, and Marcus will be monitoring that chat window and he'll respond. And what I'm hoping that'll do is that will allow us to continue the flow, and I want to honor your time and make sure that we're covering all the material in the allotted time. So he may opt to table some of the questions till the end, but I'm pretty confident he's going to be answering anything you have. So let's get started. So I hope you're familiar with 3ds Net. If not, let me introduce ourselves. We've been in business for over 26 years. Like I say, our software program OrthoGen has been used to annotate hundreds of thousands of drawings over this time, and we believe that makes us the leading experts on drawing annotation. Since its initial release in late 2018, we have had over 30 companies adopt OrthoGen for their Plant 3D processes. So not the so we're getting a lot of traction with the Plant 3D community. This is a little bio of me, but nothing too important to worry about. So our objective really is what we've worked on is paring this webinar down to the essential things that you need to know to get started using OrthoGen with Plant 3D. So that means what I'm going to do is I want to overview how OrthoGen works in relations to Plant 3D. And we believe that's important as you set up and use the software. So I'm also going to spend some time on things we often hear from customers and how to resolve them. And this will include 3 tips to further your comfort level with OrthoGen. So let's start with this overview of the OrthoGen architecture. I'm going to reiterate this several times. I think this will give you insights in how the system works, and I think it'll better help you understand how to use it for your project needs. So as you know, Plant 3D is part of AutoCAD, and you will see that we have included some of the OrthoGen functionality in the AutoCAD ribbon, but we just have a lot of options that we provide. And so what we've done is from a design point of view, is we've opted to keep OrthoGen outside of AutoCAD with the bulk of the user interface. And what that does is it allows us, and don't tell the AutoCAD people, but it also allows us to support other CAD systems. So as we're in this Plant 3D process, what it's doing is it's storing data, its project data, in a project database, and that can be 3 different formats. So OrthoGen is going to read the Plant 3D database. It's going to extract that data, and then we'll use that to annotate the drawing back in AutoCAD. And just a note, we never write anything to the Plant 3D database. So we're a read only, so we're not taking any chance of risking your data. So once OrthoGen has that data extracted, like I say, it's going to extract it into an XML format, and I'll show you a little bit that later, but that's the details of that are not in the scope of this presentation. So the real key to take away from this diagram is the fact that OrthoGen must be pointing to the correct project database in order to annotate a drawing. So let me just reiterate that. So we want that OrthoGen that it sees the correct project database in order to annotate a drawing. So, I did mention there are 3 formats for the Plant 3 database. You've got the SQLite, SQL Server, and a cloud base. initial install. SQLite can be local on your machine. SQL Server, it scales up to larger projects. You'll see those served up on network-based servers, um, and then the cloud-based. The good news is whatever format you're in, OrthoGen can process it. You know, just just an FYI, I sat through Autodesk University when they introduced the cloud-based version, and I was listening intently to see how they did that. But basically, what they're doing is that cloud-based is interfacing to an SQLite database. So they're pulling the data down. You're working on it locally, and then it's pushed back. So from an OrthoGen point of view, we don't really even know or care that it's cloud-based. We hit the database, and that project file is the key for OrthoGen to know where that data is located, and that's automatic. It's transparent to you. So just to reiterate, OrthoGen is going to read that Plant 3D project settings, and it's going to determine the database type and location. There is some differences between SQLite queries and SQL Server queries, but I won't bore you with those details. So just kind of as an overview, the process is fairly simple. You, the user, would configure the project settings in OrthoGen. OrthoGen is then going to extract that data and then use it to annotate the drawing in AutoCAD. Now, just a little brag on our system. Our architecture for OrthoGen is very, very flexible. So that annotation engine that we're using to annotate the Plant 3D modeling system is actually the same annotation engine that's used for all our modeling systems, even Revit. So what that does, it gives you confidence knowing that the drawings you're going to be generating are the same no matter the modeling system. So that allows 3ds, really, from our point of view, we can interface quickly to many modeling systems. So currently we support 6 different modeling systems, and with our new 22 release this summer, we will expand that to 7. So the first part is, how do you set up OrthoGen? Once these settings are in place, the good news is you rarely have to change them. So the first screen is really the project settings, and I'm actually going to show some live stuff, so it's not totally canned. So this is a live OrthoGen. You see the OrthoGen. So project settings is here. And then this project settings, we have a project file that gives you some flexibility on sharing the data. But basically anything we set in here is stored in the project file. You can change the project names. So you see I've got several projects here. And then this middle section, this is where it's configured. You can pick the modeling system. You can see the modeling systems we support. The thing that's nice about Plant 3D is we have the capability to pull in data from IFC data. We also have an extraction capability in Revit, so we can actually interface a Revit data into a Plant 3D file. And then this part is automatically generated. It will read the registry and determine what CAD systems are available. In this particular machine, I've just got 2019 and 2022. The view styles, this is where we get into later. We do a heavy duty deep dive webinar on view styles, but this is the base place where your view styles are. So you can change view styles or share them between projects. The distance units, this is the key one, because this has to match, and we have a rollover, this has to match the actual drawing units. So those drawing units will dictate imperial or metric. And then the diameter units, as you can see from the rollover, that's more for displaying diameter in the label. Now from the Plant 3D point of view, I know I've said it a bunch of times already, but that current project, that's the key. This sample imperial is what we're looking at. So whatever one is selected in Plant 3D, OrthoGen will read it, and from that, it's going to determine that database location, and now we're going to start extracting data. So when your settings in Plant 3, this is going to tell you where we're looking. So let's have some fun. Let's get to the more interesting part. So once we have the project set up, it's time to annotate. So we have done video captures because I think once again it makes the presentation a little more efficient, and you're not going to have those uh-ohs when we things don't run live exactly. So just a little caveat on that. So I'm going to begin with this clip, and it's basically going to show the flow when OrthoGen is annotating a drawing. So what you'll see, and I'll click the start button here, is we're going to create a view for structural steel. It's a small view, and then it's going to go through 3 iterations. We'll annotate the steel, then we'll do a different view with equipment, and then we'll add piping to it. So you'll see this is the OrthoGen cube, Ortho cube that comes with Plant 3D. You can see the view has been created. Click the annotate button for OrthoGen, and we've annotated it. It's a video capture, but that's kind of the real time of what we're looking at. So seconds you can have the annotations placed. Little different view here, added equipment. See the equipment are now appearing. We'll zoom in for that. So the new view will be generated or updated after that. Okay. Now we're actually picking a different view style. So those view styles, like I say, they basically tell the different annotation options that you're going to use on each view. And so you see it's annotated the equipment to the exterior. And so we're going to edit that view one more time, and you can see this is a good example of how OrthoGen and Plant 3D are pretty seamless, because we just jump back and forth from the view creation in Plant 3D right into the annotation with OrthoGen. So the view is going to be updated. Now you see piping occurs. I think one thing you'll start seeing when it runs is it'll flash green. So it's flashing green. That's identifying where everything is on the drawing. And if you notice, those interior labels are placed in clear space. So they're not overlapping any of the entities or the other labels. So a couple of things to take away from that is we want this to kind of show you what we want you as a customer to experience. Minimal time and configuration, maximal flexibility, and identifying how and what needs to be annotated. We do have a button here that gives you a preview of what the drawing will look like, but in many cases we can generate the drawing as fast as we could pop up the canned image. So other thing I wanted you to note is that OrthoGen dialog is on the left side over here. If your preference is on the right, it's easy. Just drag the dialog to the right. So you'll see that in later clips. But there's a lot of what we've done is to make it as flexible as possible for the user. So while we're showing some capability, and we, like I say, not deep dive, but this is going to show you how we handle multiple views. So you can see we've added smaller views to this drawing of some details, and then the video will just show that OrthoGen is going to identify those views. It sees they're there, and it's going to annotate them. So you see they turn green as well, and then you're going to annotate. And now we've got annotations on those details. So and then, of course, the next obvious question is, do I have to use the same view style for every view that's on that drawing? And the answer is no. And that's what we'll show here. You can identify a view style for each of those views. This really allows you a lot of flexibility as you're showing different aspects of the drawing of the design on one drawing. So it picked the tool, it picks the 2 views, and then it pops up a dialog that lets you pick the view style you want to use for those. And that's just your standard Windows folders. And when you get down to the style you like, it's the viewstyle.ini. It's ini driven. So we pick a different view style for that main view, and you hit the annotate, and you're going to see that the details are annotated differently than they were before. So you can see much more detail on those 2 callouts. All right, so I know at the beginning I said that we weren't going to go into too much detail on the drawing look and feel, but it would be an injustice to you if we didn't at least give you a dose of the flexibility that is available with the OrthoGen. So in this first clip, I'm going to show you how quickly you can configure a piping label using the OrthoGen label builder. Now, I'm not going to beat up on any competitors, but we've seen other competitors where you have to annotate, you have to edit XML files and do different things to jump through hoops, open a database file, but this is a little simpler. So we've got the line number tag on this original drawing. You see the 1012. So that's not sufficient. So we want a legitimate line number. So within OrthoGen, you pick the pipe entity, and this really pops up our label builder. You see all the available properties that are a part of this, and then you simply just build your label like you want. You can add spacers or offsets between them, separators, and then I think we add 4, and then it shows you how that in addition to adding, you can manipulate the order, move them around. If you decide to take one off of there, you could highlight it and hit the minus button at the bottom. Well, I guess one of the things to be careful is you can get carried away. You get too much, oh, I can do this, so your label gets big. But you'll see now that we've got a label, I think we're also going to add the spool number. Yeah. So now we've got the label format that we want. We regenerate the drawing. And now you've got a more usable pipe label. So that's just an indication of how we can do. And I'm not going to stop there. Another additional thing that we do is we allow you to support configuring your own terminators. So this is another clip that shows that capability. It zooms in on this instrument, and you'll notice that the terminator is round. So we got a round terminator. We also noticed that bubble is too small. So just as a reference, you can look at the name, and you see inline. These are stored in a deliverable DWGs in both imperial and metric. What we're showing is, this is how you find out where they are, that view styles path. So we can cut that from within the Windows option and then use that to find it in the Windows Explorer. There's your imperial drawing. So these are just DWGs that have block references for the different terminator types. So we want to open it in AutoCAD, and this just so you can see what's delivered. So there's the inline, that's the circle, and we're going to change it to the square or the offline. Now, how do you change it? Do we have to open the database? No, we just go to our handy dandy view style editor. So we're going to go edit the instruments under the line options. So you can see we have a lot of options. That's why it could take a while to do this, but just to give you an idea of what flexibility we have, I guess I'm going to verify the name is OFLINE. And we don't need to save that. You can configure your own, build your own in that file. So I think while we're here, we're going to change that bubble size because it wasn't big enough to hold that text. So yeah, there you go. And then this shows you the enclosures that are available. So we're just going to go with a bigger circle. And we hit reannotate. Now boom, all your instruments are now using the square. And you see the bubble is larger. So that's just really, I think, a good example of a lot of flexibility we have with our interface. And hopefully that gives the user a confidence level in using it. So, all right, so I promise you we talk about some common issues that we come across, and typically you're going to download the software and then run it, and we want you to run it that it immediately annotates, but a lot of times that doesn't happen. So what I'm going to show you is one of the issues that we get is the drawing units are set wrong. So I showed you on the project settings where those are set. So when I run this clip, as you're going to see the first run of the annotator, nothing happens. And so that doesn't give you a lot of confidence in the software. So I think I do show you that it's set for metric, and this is a little cheater. Did not point that out. The match line is not turned on. So we hit the button and nothing happens. So the result is, we get a call from the customer. It doesn't work. It doesn't annotate. So what you could do to a quick debug, turn on the match line, just see what happens. With the match line, it's gonna, well, you'll see what happens. That's an indicator that the drawing units are set wrong. So I delete that thing, and then we go into the project settings and go, yeah, we forgot. We changed from a metric project to imperial, and I didn't reset that. And just for confirmation, let's look and verify that this drawing is architectural or imperial. And now we can annotate it, and you'll see, oh, that's what we expect. So that little scenario stops a call to Marcus or the team, and ends a lot of frustration and allows you to progress to the next step, which is how you want to configure all those annotations to work. Another thing we'll see is, especially on some of the canned models that come with Plant 3D, the model, the data entity is not in the database. So remember, I pointed that out at the beginning, that it extracts the data from the database. So if there's a bad view, it will look like it's working, because you're going to see that the units are set right. So we're not worried about that, and you can see the match lines are around it. But it's just a bad data set. That button, refresh data, is going to, sometimes you can turn that off if you don't want to pull data from the XML or from the database. So we want to make sure we're pulling fresh data, and we're just getting nothing. So at this stage, when you run into this scenario, I'll show you a way to look at the XML later to make sure that that's what's happening, but you're not getting data. There's something, there's an issue with that view. So I do call it out. So just check, yeah, we're going to check the size of the XML file. So it's generating an XML file that goes with this, and it's in the log folder. So if you look at that XML file, it's 1K by, it's not enough. There's no data in it. And I open it up here, and you see that there's no data. So if there's no data in that XML file, it's not going to annotate. So that's just that kind of gives you a clue. Even if you don't know why the view's bad, at least at that point you can tell Marcus and our customer care team, hey, I'm not getting the data extracted. And then we're narrowing down where we need to focus, rather than it's just not annotating. This is one of the little tricky ones that you just have to be aware of, because if you've copied files, you can see I've got two files that are the same name, but they're in different locations, and OrthoGen's not pointed to the one you're expecting. It can just be a frustrating time. So a way to verify that is let Plant 3D tell you where it is. Roll over it, and you'll see the path. You see the path of that one versus the path of that one, which was in the roaming area. And then you can compare it within OrthoGen just to verify that you've got the right pathing set. But as you can imagine, that drawing file is still not going to annotate, because there's no data in the database. And that could be due to a poor import, or there's a lot of things that could have been happening, or earlier versions of things. So what presentation on getting started with a software package would be complete if it did include some helpful tips? I hope I've given you some along the way, but these are some simple things we've learned to help ensure that your OrthoGen is producing the drawings we expect. The first tip is, I just showed you where, knowing that you're pointing to the right drawing. If you launch OrthoGen from within AutoCAD, it's going to be pointed to the drawing that's opened. And just as a reference, as you can see, there are several buttons here. The Manage View is really more for our CADWorks customers, because they don't really have a nice OrthoCube in the CADWorks world. The Help will pull up our PDF of our user manual. Could be helpful. And then There's that view styles command to assign the view styles to different views on the screen or on the drawing. And then you can see that one, the CADWorks equipment location, obviously is a CADWorks. So what it'll do is if you see this Area 1 demo view 1, when we run the clip, you'll see that launching OrthoGen from there will point right to it. So I'm showing here quickly that you don't want to do this. Don't want to run it from the Windows launch. You want to launch it from there. And like I say, there should be an OrthoGen tab. Within that OrthoGen tab is a launch OrthoGen. And there you can see that we're pointing to the same drawing. So that's just a little quick hit, especially if you've got drawings buried deep in something, and instead of trying to path through the OrthoGen search and seize, just kill OrthoGen, go into Plant 3D, find that drawing, hit launch OrthoGen, and it's going to be pointed right at it. I know as a debug and tester, it saves us a lot of time to do that. The next tip is, a lot of times you just need to verify, did OrthoGen load? And then when you're talking to Marcus, you need to tell him what version number you have, because if you've got an older version, that may be the problem. So I just want to, a lot of times we don't get a lot of commands, but this command, DDS, it's up in the top right corner. The DDS ver command can give you a lot of insights quickly. So just go to the command line, type DDS ver, and if it returns, the version and a build number, then it's loaded. So we know that it's loaded, and you can now reference that build number in referring to the help desk. And we'll need all the way to the smaller number, the 7427. That's really we need all four of the numbers. If it fails, you'll get an unknown command. So if you get an unknown command, then OrthoGen did not load. And if OrthoGen did not load, obviously you're not going to get annotations. Possible reasons it didn't load. If you have an older version of AutoCAD, so our policy is we're supporting the current release version of AutoCAD plus the four releases prior to that. So we haven't moved to 2023 yet, but we support AutoCAD 2018 through 2022. And the other thing that could cause an issue, it could be a licensing issue. So if there's a licensing issue, that's not the most, a lot of times we don't give the best feedback on that, but it would also say that would be a reason it's not loading. So the last tip is really kind of an insight into that log folder. If you're having an issue and you haven't been able to resolve it by setting your diameters, your drawing units correctly, or making sure you're pointing to the right project file, and it's time to talk to Marcus, do the DDS ver, find out the version number, and then look in this log folder. And you could almost debug it yourself. So what we're looking for, and I showed you earlier, is the empty XML file. And how you find that is if you can path off of that out of Plant 3D, just open that file location, you'll see a log folder. And that log folder contains all this information. So in this one, you can see a healthy XML file. So this is what you want to see on your XML. You want to see data. You may not get into the details of what all that means, but at least there's stuff there. And then this P3D DBX log is one that you'll send to Marcus if you're not getting data. So you see this one, the record count above was 164. Even in here, it shows you the database name. So those are two things that we'll get. There's also just a .log file that we may need as well. And if you look in that thing, it may cause your brain to hurt, because we dump a lot of data, and it doesn't mean a lot to you, but it would mean something to us, and we would know what your system is seeing. So that's our other tip. So you got 3 tips I hope will help. Launch it from within Plant 3D, use the DDS ver, and then that log folder. All right, so you've been a great audience, and we're wrapping this up, and I just want to kind of summarize what we've talked about. I know I get on soapboxes about things, but that relationship with that project file is key. If you don't get that set right, then OrthoGen is kind of helpless. It can't help you. So make sure that the Plant 3D project file is set like you want. And then OrthoGen's then going to annotate inside of AutoCAD in that drawing file. And then the view styles, we didn't get in a lot of detail. You saw some of the capabilities of that where we can configure the drawing look and feel. And we're constantly adding future features. I mean, the new release, you can pick which sides the annotations land on. You can pick the middle of the pipe or the ends of the pipe. There's a lot of configurations, and that's because we're meeting the customer's needs. And yeah, like I said earlier, you know, those drawing units, the data extraction is a big one, and then make sure it's the correct file. So those are things just to be aware of. You know, I hope that this brief glimpse into OrthoGen's capabilities has given you a sense of what an advantage this software can be to your organization. You know, we've received reports from customers where they're seeing drawing times reduced by 80%. 80%. So if you're seeing that big of a time reduction, you can easily grasp the cost savings that speed increase is just by speeding up alone provides. You know, and the increase of your increased quality of your drawings, that's going to be further savings, you know, in terms of rework or escape defects. You know, so at 3DS, we have over 100 years of experience in drawing production. You know, and if you, with the purchase of OrthoGen, you actually gain that experience. So we become part of your team. So how do you be a part of this team? Well, that's a great question. So it's really easy to get a copy of OrthoGen. You can download it from the OrthoGen App Store. I think some of you have, or you can create an account on our own website, 3ds.net. The advantage of the 3ds.net site is you're going to get a newer version because I don't know if you updating on the Autodesk App Store is not the simplest of things. It's not difficult, but it's a little task heavy, so we do that not as regularly as we do on our own App Store. And then you can contact your local reseller. You know, so get a copy. They should come with they come now, I think, set with a 7-day trial period. Try it out. Hopefully these tips I've shown you will help you result in annotating, not just seeing blank screens or blank drawings. And then purchase a license. We now support monthly or yearly license leases. There's all kinds of licensing configurations supported. Just contact our sales or support team, or once again your local reseller, and they'll be glad to get you set up. So if you have some feedback for us, you know, next month we're going to do another getting started with this, which is a high level of using OrthoGen with CADWorks. So if you're a CADWorks user or you have CADWorks in your facility, you know, please share that information with them. In June, we'll do another session on OrthoGen for Plant 3D because of my 30 people that signed up. I got three people that could make it today. And so some other sessions that we're considering is really a deep dive into piping annotations. And that would be the labels, plus we have selection algorithms on which pipes are being annotated, where we're annotating them, bottom of pipe, top of pipe, all kinds of, a lot of options. And then we can also do a webinar solely on the view style configuration, because that in itself can be quite well, it's very flexible, but with flexibility comes a lot of options and can be complicated. And then we can also do a getting started with OrthoGen for Revit. If you have, once again, if you have Revit in-house or know someone that would like to start using OrthoGen to annotate in Revit. So I'm talked out. This would be a good time to ask any questions. I didn't see anything text to Marcus. So are there any questions? Please, feel free to unmute or to type it in the chat window. Okay, all right, good. That means that we covered good information. So I hope that you have a copy of OrthoGen. If not, we'll be following up with you for attending. So we'll have information there, but you can find just go to 3ds.net. Like I say, there's our phone number in the US. We can find YouTube and link YouTube videos of the OrthoGen capabilities, and then we also are on LinkedIn. Just search for 3dsnet.com. This presentation is being recorded, and we will post it and we'll send it to you for you can review it later or share with colleagues. So with that, I'm going to thank you again for your time, and unless you have any other questions, you're free to go.